Hello, my name is Ben Meyers, and this is my first ever video for the Anxious Evangelist. This is something I've been wanting to do for a while because I've noticed that there's no real outlet on YouTube for people that are suffering from anxiety, depression, suicidal thoughts, kind of that whole spectrum from a Christian perspective. And I thought I could shed light on that because those are things that I've gone through. And I thought, what better way to start than with my story? So let me just dive right in. I am a pastor's kid. I'm 26, but my dad is still a pastor, so I'm still a pastor's kid. I grew up in the church and went to church every Sunday and every Wednesday and did all the pastor's kid stuff. And, I was strong enough in my faith to keep going and to keep listening and to keep understanding more and more about the gospel and about Jesus. And I would still look for more answers and more answers. And, I would just do kind of the normal Christian routine. I went to public school, and then after that I went to college and got my bachelor's degree in behavioral science. Started a job at a company called Youth in Need. I was a Head Start teacher, which I really loved my job because I was able to have an impact on my community and all the families in my community and the kids in my community, and just I loved everyone I worked with, and I loved all the families I saw, and it was just overall a great experience for me. But one thing that had always been with me was anxiety, and it had always been with me ever since I was younger, but as I got older, it just kept festering and festering and getting worse and worse. It got to a point in my job where it started to interfere with me being able to do certain things in my job. So I went to my doctor and I said, "Doctor, I'm struggling with anxiety, what can you prescribe?" And I had never been on any prescriptions before. And so he gave me a prescription for an anxiety medication. So I took that medication, and then about 3 hours later, my head felt like it was on fire. It just felt, my head was really, really hot. And it was a Wednesday, and I remember telling my mom, because I was at her house, that I was going to go back to my apartment rather than go up to church and help with the Awana ministry because there was something wrong with my head. So I went back to my apartment and I wrapped ice wraps all around my head, just all the way around. And it looked like I was wearing a turban with how many ice wraps I had around my head, and my head was still on fire. And I was like, okay, I got to sleep this off. So I went to bed. That didn't last more than 15 minutes before I got up, went to the bathroom, and I was extremely ill in the bathroom. And then I could feel myself about to pass out. And that's something I had never done. I had never passed out before. But I could feel it coming. So I banged on the wall of the bathroom, and on the other side is my roommate's room. And I said, "John, call 911. And then that's all I remember from that. And then the next thing I know, I'm woken up by paramedics pounding on my chest. And so I did pass out, and I don't know how long it took for them to get there or whatever, but my whole body was just not good. They're working on me, and I can hear, there's police officers coming in too, and they're checking my room for drugs. And I remember my roommate going, he doesn't even drink, there's no drugs in there. But they searched it anyways, and of course they didn't find anything. And finally I was able to get out of my mouth the words laptop bag. So they went to my laptop bag and pulled out the prescription and saw that there was one pill out. And they're like, okay, it's from this pill. So they rushed me to the hospital. They got me stabilized. And I remember my parents coming to the hospital, and I remember I felt so bad because, it was getting kind of late, and, you never want to inconvenience your parents. I was like, I'm sorry, I don't know what happened. I don't know, what caused this. It just happened. So then I started to feel better, so I went home with my parents, and it kind of started to creep up again while I was at home, but I was able to sleep it off. I was able to just force myself to go to sleep. And the next day I woke up, I drove to my apartment to get a change of clothes for work, and I walked in, my roommate was there. He didn't have to work that day. He works outdoors, and it was raining or something. So he didn't have to work that day, and I walked in and I looked at him, I'm like, man, what the heck was that about last night? And he's like, I don't know, that was weird, so I was like, geez, So I went up, put on a polo, a pair of slacks, and I went out to work, and right whenever I got to work, it hit me again. Just really bad anxiety attack of just really bad. So I texted my boss, hey, can you please come out back? So my boss came and talked to me out back, and I just looked at her and said, can you please take me to my parents' house? So she took me there. We got there, and my mom had explained to her what had happened the night before, and then I was laying on the couch, and for the next 48 hours, I was basically it was one of the worst 2 days of my life. I felt like I was breathing through a coffee straw. I just couldn't breathe right. I just kept trying to breathe, but it wouldn't take. And I kept saying, I can't breathe. And they were, my parents were like, you can breathe. Look, you're still, talking. You're able to breathe. But I wasn't able to get that good airflow. So that went on for 2 days, or about 48 hours, and I didn't sleep at all during that time. And finally, I kept saying, I can't breathe. And they were like, yes, you can. And I remember I grabbed my dad's by the shirt, and I pulled him closer. And I said, Dad, I can't breathe. And then he looked at my mom and said, we need to go to the hospital.